I started noticing strange changes in my granddaughter whenever her mother was nearby. She would suddenly grow quiet, her shoulders tightening, her eyes dropping away from mine. At only 8 years old, she showed every sign of fear, yet she never explained why. One evening during dinner, when no one was paying attention, she slid a folded piece of paper into my hand beneath the table. Her fingers were icy cold, shaking as they brushed mine. I waited until I was alone before opening it. The message was simple and terrifying. "Grandpa, look under the boat in the garage. Then you'll understand." I went to check, and I screamed when I saw what was hidden there. Before Lily's note turns everything upside down, let me pause for a moment. Where are you watching from right now, and what time is it there? Leave a comment below. Your presence here means more than you know. The moment Ethan's truck pulled into my driveway that Sunday evening, I felt a knot form in my stomach. Something was wrong. These Sunday dinners had become our routine since Laura passed away 3 years earlier, but that night felt different. As Ethan stepped out and Claire followed with her perfectly practiced smile, it felt like we were reenacting something that had already died. Then I saw Lily. My granddaughter had always been pure sunshine, wild curls, unstoppable energy, the kind of child who used to burst through my door, straight into my arms. But the little girl climbing out of the back seat that evening was almost unrecognizable. She looked thinner, her favorite dress hanging loose, dark circles etched beneath her eyes. She moved with hunched shoulders, as if trying to make herself invisible. 8 years old, and already she looked haunted. "Dad," Ethan said flatly as he shook my hand. No hug, no warmth. My own son couldn't meet my eyes. "Come on in," I said, reaching for Lily. "Hey there, sweetheart." She flinched, actually flinched, when my hand touched her shoulder, then quickly forced a trembling smile that shattered my heart. Dinner was suffocating. I had made all of Lily's favorite foods: fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, green beans. But she barely touched her plate, only pushing food around while Claire controlled the conversation. "Lily's doing wonderfully in school," Claire announced. "Her teacher says she's very well behaved, so quiet." Quiet. Lily had never been quiet a single day of her life. Ethan nodded along, moving food around his plate, barely speaking. The boy who once talked endlessly about everything had vanished. During dessert, Claire's hand settled on Lily's shoulder. The child went completely still, like a rabbit frozen under a hawk's shadow. Claire's fingers pressed down, not enough to leave marks, but enough to send a message. "Lily, tell Grandpa about your new bedtime routine." "I go to bed at 7:30 now," Lily whispered, staring at her untouched pie. "Mom says I need more sleep." "7:30?" I said carefully. "That's quite early." "Children need structure, Daniel," Claire replied, using my first name with deliberate coldness. "Ethan and I provide that stability. Don't we, honey?" Ethan nodded like a puppet. "Yeah, structure's important." I wanted to shake him awake, but what could I say? What proof did I have? On the surface, everything looked fine. Only Lily's eyes told the truth. During one of Claire's endless monologues, Lily's small hand found mine beneath the table. A folded paper pressed into my palm. Her fingers trembled as she released it, then pulled away, her face carefully blank. When they left an hour later, Lily turned back one last time. Our eyes met, and the desperation in her gaze, the silent, terrified plea, hit me like a punch. Then Claire's hand landed on her shoulder, guiding her into the truck, and the moment was gone. I stood in my driveway until the taillights disappeared. Only then did I open my hand. The note was crumpled, written in Lily's careful second-grade handwriting, some letters shaky. "Grandpa, look under the boat in the garage. You'll understand." I read it 3 times. My heart pounded. What was under that boat? And why had my granddaughter been so afraid she had to sneak me a note? Logic told me to wait until morning. Instinct told me not to. I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the garage. The space was dark and cold. The beam landed on my cabin cruiser sitting on its trailer. The Silver Dawn, 25 feet of memories I hadn't touched since Laura died. Now it was hiding something Lily had risked everything to warn me about. I climbed aboard and searched. The storage compartments were empty, nothing under the seats. Then I noticed the life jackets piled carelessly in a corner. That wasn't right. I had always kept them neatly folded. Someone had been there recently. I lifted the orange foam and my breath caught. A black duffel bag was wedged deep into the corner, hidden deliberately. My hands shook as I unzipped it. Inside were IDs, driver's licenses, credit cards, all with Claire's face, but different names. Claire Adams, Claire Bennett, Claire Reynolds. 3 identities, maybe more. Who exactly had my son married? Then I found the notebook. Small, spiral bound. The first page was a spreadsheet written in tight, precise handwriting. Daniel Harper, house $500,000. Life insurance $300,000. Savings $400,000. Total $1.2 million. My life reduced to numbers. I turned the page, and my world collapsed. Timeline 6 months. Method TBD, boating incident or medication interaction. It was a plan, something meant to look like an accident. The following pages detailed my daily routine, my medications, my Thursday walks, the times I was alone, every vulnerability mapped out. What broke me was the handwriting. Some sections were neat and controlled, others rushed and uneven. One note stood out. We need to move faster. We, not just Claire. Someone else knew my routines, had access to my home, my medications. No, Ethan. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. My own son was part of this. Training took over. Evidence. Document everything. I photographed every ID, every page of the notebook. The camera clicked rapidly in the silent garage. I uploaded everything to the cloud, then texted Aaron, a retired Florida detective I trusted. Found something serious. Evidence attached. If anything happens to me, you know what to do. His response came immediately. Calling you now. I silenced the phone. Then I heard it, car doors slamming, an engine shutting off in my driveway. They had come back. My heart hammered as I shoved the bag into place, covered it with the life jackets, and turned off the flashlight. Voices approached, footsteps, Ethan and Claire moving toward the garage. I stood frozen in the darkness, the evidence burning in my pocket as the garage door began to rise. Light spilled across the concrete floor, creeping toward the boat like a warning I couldn't ignore. The garage door swung open, and headlights flooded the space, forcing me to squint. Ethan and Claire stepped inside, their shadows stretching long across the floor as the truck engine ticked behind them. I stood near the boat with my phone in hand, trying to appear steadier than I felt. "Dad, what are you doing out here?" Ethan asked, his voice sounding almost too normal. I decided to test them. "Lily asked me to check on something." Claire's eyes narrowed for just a fraction of a second before her pleasant expression returned, but I caught it. She knew Lily had spoken. There was no point pretending anymore. I raised my phone and showed them the photo of the notebook. "I've already backed this up," I said. "It's been sent to people who know exactly what to do with it." Ethan tried to laugh, but the sound came out strained. "Dad, come on, you must be confused." "Confused about the fake IDs?" I asked calmly. "The notebook listing my assets? The timeline? The notes on my routine written in 2 different hands?" Claire stepped closer, her approach shifting. Her voice dropped into that soft, patronizing tone. "Daniel, have you been feeling all right? At your age, memory issues can be concerning. Sometimes it's early dementia." "My memory is fine," I replied, keeping my eyes on both of them. "I know exactly what I saw, and every bit of it is backed up and already in the hands of someone I trust." That's when I really looked at Ethan, my son, the boy I'd raised, the same one I'd taught to fish off the boat behind me. His body gave him away, shoulders hunched, arms crossed tight. His eyes kept darting toward Claire as if he needed her approval. Every defensive signal was there. Then, just for a moment, his mask slipped. I saw desperation, guilt, fear. And then it was gone. My son wasn't trapped in this. He was part of it. The realization hurt worse than any physical blow ever could. "Ethan," I said, my voice cracking, "tell me I'm wrong." He opened his mouth, closed it again, then looked at Claire. That was answer enough. Claire grabbed his arm hard enough to make him wince. "We should go," she said sharply. "Your father needs rest." "My mind is perfectly clear," I said. "Clear enough to know what you're planning, and clear enough to protect myself. Claire's pleasant mask finally broke. Her smile turned thin and cold. "Protected?" she said. "Interesting, Daniel, because from where I'm standing, you're an older man living alone. A lot can go wrong. Accidents happen all the time." The threat hung in the air, barely disguised. She pulled Ethan toward the door. He followed without a word, without looking back. I stood there until the truck backed out and the sound faded completely. Only then did my legs give out and I sank down against the stern of the boat. My own son was helping that woman plan something that would leave me dead, for money, for everything I'd built, everything meant for Lily. They weren't backing down. Claire's warning made that clear. This wasn't over. This was war. My phone buzzed. Aaron was calling again. This time I answered. "Aaron," I said, my voice rough, "I need your help." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the notebook. Ethan's handwriting mixed with hers, the cold calculations. 4 to 6 months. That's how long they'd planned to let me live. By morning, I was on a video call with Aaron. "Show me everything," he said grimly. I pulled up the cloud folder and opened the photos, fake IDs, notebook pages, timelines. His jaw tightened as he scrolled. "This is bad, Daniel. Really bad." He zoomed in on one of the IDs. "Claire Reynolds, but look at this." He opened another window and typed quickly. "She married your son 3 years ago under that name. Clean record, but something felt off, so I kept digging." My chest tightened. "What did you find?" "5 years ago in Arizona," Aaron said slowly, "there was a woman named Claire Adams. She married a 72-year-old man named Robert Adams, a retired executive worth about $2 million. 6 months after the wedding, he fell down the stairs at home, ruled an accident." The room seemed to tilt as I gripped the desk. "She inherited everything," Aaron continued. "Then she vanished, changed her name, moved to Florida, and found your son." "So this is what she does," I said hollowly. "She finds men with money, marries them, waits, and makes it look like an accident." Aaron's eyes darkened. "And Ethan knows. The notebook you found, his handwriting is all over it. He's not a victim here. He's her partner. My son. The boy I taught to ride a bike, to throw a baseball. Part of this." Aaron leaned forward. "I have a contact who can help, Daniel Brooks. He's an attorney who specializes in elder law and financial crimes. He's seen this before. Let me reach out." Within an hour, Daniel called. His voice was calm, professional. "Mr. Harper, Aaron filled me in. I want to help, but we need to move carefully." "They already know I found the evidence," I said. "I confronted them last night." There was a pause. "Then we need to act fast," he replied. "I'm clearing my schedule. Can you meet this afternoon?" "Yes." "Good. And Daniel, don't approach them again. Not alone. If they're willing to follow through on this, they won't hesitate to speed up the timeline." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Dad, we need to talk about Lily. She's been acting strange lately. Withdrawn. Anxious. Claire thinks she should see a counselor. We've scheduled an appointment for next week." I stared at the message. Lily, the brave little girl who'd slipped me that note. They weren't just after me anymore. They were isolating her, making sure she couldn't speak to anyone else. Fear hardened into rage. I typed back, "I'll talk to her first. Give me some time with her." But I knew the truth. They wouldn't give me time. I looked from my phone to Aaron's contact, then to the cloud folder full of proof. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about saving Lily, and time was running out. I drove hard toward her school, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white. I had to reach her first. When I pulled into the pickup line, my heart pounded as I scanned the lot. No sign of Ethan's car yet. Good. Lily came through the doors with her backpack, and the moment she saw me, her face changed completely. Relief. Pure, desperate relief. She ran to the truck and climbed in without saying a word. "How about some ice cream?" I asked gently. Emma nodded immediately, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror like she expected someone to appear any second. I didn't wait. We pulled out of the lot fast, before anyone else could arrive. The ice cream shop was loud and bright, packed with families and noise, the kind of place that felt normal and safe. Emma chose chocolate chip but barely touched it. her small hands trembling as she sat beside me. "You're safe with me," I said quietly. "I promise." That was when she fell apart. Tears spilled down her face as she leaned into me, sobbing. "Grandpa, they're going to hurt you," she whispered. I heard them. "Mom said you're in the way. She said it like you didn't matter." My chest tightened, but I kept my voice steady. I asked her what else she heard. She swallowed hard. "Dad owes a lot of money. He said he'd do anything to get it. They don't know I heard them. I pretend to be asleep every night." She was only 8 years old, carrying something no child ever should. I told her I needed to record what she was saying so I could protect her, and she nodded. I opened the voice recorder on my phone and let her speak, every word trembling but clear. When we left the shop, I held her hand tightly, promising we would fix this together. That promise cracked the moment we reached the truck. Both front tires were slashed, deep and deliberate. I told Emma to stay inside, sharper than I meant to, and took photos from every angle. Then I called the police. The officer arrived quickly, young and professional, documented everything, and handed me the report. "If anything else happens, call immediately," he said. Jason's car screeched into the lot moments later. He stormed over, furious, accusing me of taking Emma without permission. Calmly, I told him we'd gone for ice cream and returned to find my tires destroyed. His face betrayed him for just a second, fear, guilt, before he masked it. He grabbed Emma's hand and pulled her away. She looked back once, terrified, and then they were gone. That night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Stay out of it. Next time won't be the tires." My heart pounded, but fear hardened into resolve. They wanted me scared. Instead, I was done being alone. By the second week, I was sitting in attorney Daniel Brooks's office with Marcus and a private investigator named Sarah Bennett. They reviewed everything: the notebook, the IDs, Emma's recording, the threats. Sarah confirmed what we already feared. This was escalating elder abuse, and they were moving fast. Surveillance showed secret meetings, cash withdrawals, and whispered plans. An audio recording caught Melissa saying, "We need to move faster. He knows too much." Jason replied quietly, "I'll handle it." Daniel was clear. We needed a confession, recorded, with witnesses and police ready. It would be dangerous, but waiting was worse. I agreed. Everything from that moment forward was for Emma. On Thursday afternoon, I called Jason and pretended to give in. I told him I was tired of fighting, that maybe it was time to transfer the house. I invited him and Melissa over Friday night. He didn't even try to hide his excitement. By the time they arrived, my home was wired with hidden cameras and audio. Police were standing by. Emma was safely away. At exactly 7, their headlights swept the driveway. They walked in smiling, dressed like nothing was wrong, carrying wine and false warmth. I welcomed them in, steady and calm, like the old man they thought they were about to finish. Melissa glanced around the living room and asked casually, "Where's Emma?" "Sleep over at a friend's house," I said casually. I thought this conversation should just be between adults. I noticed it immediately, the way Melissa's shoulders loosened, the brief relief that flashed in her eyes. No child, no witness, just opportunity. Dinner was perfect. Maggie's pot roast, slow cooked the way she used to make it, tender meat, roasted vegetables, thick gravy. Jason complimented it, and for a moment I saw my son as he once was, before the debt, before the desperation, before her. I set my fork down and spoke calmly. I told them I'd been thinking a lot about getting older, about simplifying things, about keeping the family together. Melissa leaned forward, wearing that practiced look of concern. I reached to the side table, pulled out a folder, and slid it across to them. Property transfer documents. I reminded Jason he was my son, Emma my granddaughter, and that everything I owned should stay in the family. Jason's eyes lit up. His hands trembled as he opened the folder. He asked if I was sure. Melissa's expression slipped for a heartbeat, raw greed, before she smiled again. She thanked me, told me I wouldn't regret it. The way she said it made the room feel colder. I poured more wine, steady as stone, and told them I just wanted peace, that I was tired of fighting. Jason reached for my hand and squeezed it, promising they'd take care of everything. I let the silence stretch, let them believe they'd won. Then I pulled out my phone, opened my photo gallery, and slammed it face up on the table. The screen showed the notebook, every page, every calculation, every plan for my death. I looked them both in the eyes. "Before we sign anything," I said quietly, "you're going to explain this." Jason went pale. Melissa's smile vanished. The room fell dead silent. Jason tried to speak, couldn't. Melissa demanded to know where I got it. I told her the truth, under the boat, where Emma told me to look. Jason jumped up, chair scraping loudly, begging me to let him explain. I cut him off. I accused them of planning something monstrous to steal my life and my money. Melissa snapped back, calling me confused, questioning my sanity. I said her name clearly, Melissa Warren, and reminded her of Arizona, of the man who died after marrying her. Her mask shattered completely. What remained was cold and calculating. I turned to Jason and told him I'd seen his handwriting, my routines, my medications, the notes about when I was alone. My voice broke as I said it. He collapsed into himself, shaking, confessing everything, the debt, the loans, the panic. Melissa tried to stop him, but he couldn't. He admitted they planned to make it look like an accident. He said it would be quick, that I'd lived my life, that they'd use the money to take care of Emma. I slammed my hand on the table. I told them Emma was 8 years old and terrified in her own home. Melissa responded without emotion, saying children adjust, children forget. Jason pleaded, saying they'd give her everything. I shouted back that money earned through killing your own father was poison. Melissa's eyes darted to the phone, to the corners of the room. She realized too late. She accused me of recording, of deceiving them, and lunged across the table. Jason grabbed her arm. Then the pounding came at the door. Tampa police entered from front and back exactly as planned. The lead officer announced their arrest. Melissa screamed that it was a trap. The officer told her plainly she'd confessed on camera, in my home, with my consent. Jason stood frozen as they cuffed him. He looked at me and whispered that he was sorry. I told him the truth, that he was only sorry he'd been caught. They took him away before he could say another word. The house went quiet. Daniel stepped inside and put a hand on my shoulder, telling me it was over. I nodded, unable to speak. My legs gave out, and I sank into the chair, shaking. Red and blue lights flashed across the walls. Dinner sat cold. Maggie's pot roast untouched. The transfer papers lay scattered and meaningless. My son was gone, but Emma would be safe, and that was all that mattered. 3 months later, life looked different. The legal process ended. Jason and Melissa faced long prison sentences. The evidence was undeniable. Justice held. Emma became mine. Full custody, permanent. Therapy began immediately. At first, she barely spoke. Week by week, things began to change. The nightmares came less often. Emma stopped waking up crying in the middle of the night. Her drawings shifted too. The dark scribbles faded away, replaced by sunshine, flowers, and boats floating on bright blue water. And then one morning, I heard it again. Her laughter. That sound filled the house in a way I'd forgotten was possible. It felt like life returning. We found our rhythm. Mornings meant pancakes. She'd stand on her little stool at the counter, carefully pouring batter while I worked the griddle. We talked about school, about friends, about nothing important, and everything that mattered. School drop-offs became something I quietly treasured. Watching her walk up the steps, backpack bouncing, turning to wave with that easy smile reminded me why I'd fought so hard to protect her. The dining table, once heavy with tension, became her homework station. Books spread out, pencils rolling, the radio playing softly while I made dinner. On weekends, we took the boat out again. The same boat that once hid terrible secrets now carried us across Tampa Bay. Sunlight on the water, wind in our faces. We weren't just moving forward. We were reclaiming what had almost been stolen. I didn't stop there. Daniel invited me to help with his nonprofit, and I said yes. Once a month, I visited senior centers to speak about financial exploitation, how to spot it, how to protect yourself, how to ask for help without shame. Sometimes Emma came with me. She'd sit in the front row with her coloring books, then hand out her drawings to the residents. For the grandmas and grandpas, she'd say shyly. They adored her. Through those visits, I realized something powerful. Family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up for you. Marcus stopped by every week to teach Emma chess. Daniel and Sarah checked in often. Even neighbors I'd barely known started inviting us to cookouts and community events. We weren't alone anymore. We had a circle. One Sunday afternoon, Emma and I were out on the boat as the sun dipped low, painting the sky gold and pink. The water shimmered beneath us. She looked up at me and asked, "Grandpa, do you still think about Dad?" I took a slow breath. "I do, sweetheart. I think about who he used to be, but your dad made his own choices." She was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you think he ever really loved us?" My heart ached as I pulled her close. "I think he chose a different path, honey, but that doesn't change what we have. We have people who truly care about us, and we have each other." She wrapped her arms around me and rested her head against my chest. I looked out at the horizon and thought of Maggie. I hoped she was proud. I had kept our granddaughter safe. I had found strength I didn't know I still had at my age. Growing older doesn't mean growing weaker. It means gaining wisdom, perspective, and courage, if you're willing to use them. Emma pulled back and smiled up at me, her eyes clear and bright. "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, Emma." Her laughter carried across the bay on the warm breeze. We'd survived the darkest days imaginable, and now we were finally free to move forward together. Looking back on this true story, I realize how close I came to losing everything. This is one of those grandpa stories I never thought I'd have to tell, but I'm sharing it because someone out there may need to hear it. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you find a notebook hidden under a boat. I ignored the warning signs for too long. Emma was terrified, and I told myself she was just adjusting. Jason grew distant, and I made excuses. Melissa's coldness I dismissed as stress. I nearly paid for that denial with my life. Here's what I learned. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Speak up, ask questions, and don't isolate yourself. I thought I had to handle everything alone because I was the grandfather, the protector. But the truth is, I needed help. I needed Marcus. I needed Daniel. I needed Sarah. I needed my community. Without them, this story could have ended very differently. Being older doesn't make you a burden. It makes you a target, unless you stand your ground. Don't let anyone convince you that your age means you're in the way. That's exactly what predators want you to believe, so they can control you. And here's the most important lesson of all. God gave me Emma's courage when I needed it most. He placed the right people in my life at exactly the right time. When I felt most alone, he reminded me through that little girl's note that I wasn't fighting this battle by myself. Faith doesn't mean you won't face darkness. It means you won't face it alone. This true story isn't just mine. It's a warning. It's a reminder. And it's proof that even in your 80s, you can still fight back, protect the ones you love, and by the grace of God, win. If you've lived through something like this, don't stay silent. Share your story. Warn others. Stay vigilant. Stay connected.